Hello everybody, Larry Young here again with another segment of OLaMan Living Life with Purity. And today I want to talk about a woman named Alice O'Connor. Now her real birth name was Rosenbaum, and she was born in Russia. And she emigrated to the United States in the 1920s, somewhere around in that area. And a lot was going on in the United States at that time, and a lot of people were coming in and fleeing religious persecution and things like this, the early seeds of the Jewish cleansing that was going on in Europe at that time. It had always been kind of going on, but it was starting to heat up a bit. The propaganda machine was going at it, and so Russian Jews and Slavic Jews and all sorts of Jews in those areas of the world were all being persecuted, shut down, and cordoned off to certain areas of their communities, their ghettos, if you would, where they had to stay and they couldn't come out of these areas. So there was a lot of trouble going on in the world going way back when, and the Woodrow Wilson team took advantage of a lot of these things, and they got on this progressive train at that time and started sowing the seeds of what we're harvesting right now. But Alice O'Connor, she was a thinker and a philosopher, and she brought us a topic in philosophical circles called Objectivism. And Objectivism basically says that selfishness is a good thing for the greater good. Because it's a motivator of the self to try to not be worried about what other people are thinking all the time, but what you need to be doing and should be doing, and what ends up working in the spirit of a laissez-faire capitalist society, which is the best way to build things. Now, if we go back to some of my earlier podcasts here, I've always tried to say that God is goodness, and God creates, God builds, whereas the devil is evil, and the devil destroys, and the devil tries to tear things down. And in the spirit of what Archbishop Fulton Sheen had said, you can't build down, you can only build up. So anything that's trying to destroy things and take things down is evil in its intent and design, unless it's been thoughtfully put together to where something new is going to be built in its place. You know, demolition, I do that all the time. But you have to tear out the old that doesn't fit or has done its service to you in the world in order to put in the new items. And this is a lot of what these progressives right now are trying to say that they're doing. They're trying to get rid of all this old stuff that hurts their feelings in order to build this new, what they want to call utopia, but is really more of a dystopian type of situation. Now, Alice O'Connor was her real name when she came to the States. I think her real name was Allison or Alicia or something like this, Rosenbaum, when she was in Russia. But when she came to the United States, she took the easier name of Alice to get along with the community and assimilate and become part of the U.S. culture. Now, she took to writing and her living her thinking, her perspective. And she chose a pen name, and a lot of you have probably figured it out by now who I'm talking about. She chose the pen name of Ayn Rand, A-Y-N Rand. And she gave us great books to think about, and one of them was a book called Atlas Shrugged. And Atlas Shrugged, when I was in college, was mandatory reading for every 19-year-old across the spectrum. And it really opened up a thought process that was perfect for me at that time because of hard work, self-reliance, all these things. You know, you're not going to get there unless you start types of things. Only you can make yourself the best. Don't blame anyone else. Ask their help. These types of things. Build things. Don't tear things down. Don't sit in the corner and bitch and moan. Get out there and do stuff. Well, Ayn Rand was very much a proponent of that. Now, there happened to be an opportunity that I was invited to by one of my political science instructors when I was attending school at Michigan State University. And Ayn Rand was making a tour at this time. She was late on in life. I think she was probably, well, it shouldn't say late on in life. She was in her 70s. And she was going around doing Q&As with people. And I was working at a group, a student organization on campus called Pop Entertainment. And one of the things that we did was we would set up the hosting facilities when people like this would come in to talk to people at the university. They always needed things done in the backstage areas, the craft services, providing food, making sure there were enough lounge chairs for the speaker and their entourage, that they had assistance there with, at the time we needed to make sure there was like copy machines and things like this there that they could make copies of programs and things like this on the spot, these types of things. So they needed young guys like me who could mobilize and get this stuff done. And I was happy to do it because it was very interesting. It gave me access to the things backstage. So it was really kind of a cool gig to have. And, it allowed me to meet a lot of the entertainers and speakers who came through. And many times I was just helping them out, making sure that they had cans of soda or whatever it is that they asked for, because we didn't have bottled water at that time. So everyone was asking for either Coca-Cola or Pepsi or things like this, or we would always make sure there was coffee on hand. That was always the big thing, was making sure there was coffee. But I had an opportunity to sit with Ayn Rand or Alice O'Connor for about 3 to 5 minutes as I was sitting there taking care of her and her group. And it was just one of the most gracious meetings I've ever had, for her to take time with this young 19-year-old and try to say something of inspiration that met my thinking at that time. And her intuition, I think, was really, really good. And she had told me at that time that I would be living through one of the deepest, darkest phases of our world's existence, the humans that were going to be happening. She knew and knew about the forthcoming media acceleration that was going on. And I was a student of this at the time. It was a telecommunications student. And I was understanding and studying about how this was going to be even more important than the printing press, as far as how it was going to change the speed with which communications happened, and the influence of false narratives and things like this that were going to get out into the stream of thinking and public persuasion. And one of the things that Ayn Rand or Alice O'Connor was famous for, one of her lines, and I'm going to paraphrase, is, it's not about seeking who's going to give you the permission. It's more about who's going to stop me. So this is thinking towards it's better to ask forgiveness than to ask permission, because they're probably not going to give you permission, so just go ahead and do it. And this is what the progressives right now are doing. They're not seeking permission, they're just doing it. And no one's standing up to stop them. They're saying, oh, this is so wonderful of us to be so, inspired by this thought, and being so inclusive, and this is equity and things like this. Well, equity doesn't happen in nature in any place. The only time equity happens is with the level of water, in the natural flooding and things like this, and how water seeks its level. That's about the only time that equity is shared across the board, and where you can find equity is in the level of water. In other words, it just doesn't happen, and it can't happen because it goes against the facts. You just can't have everybody have the exact same outcome. The only time you can have that in the human world is with the cafeteria lunch lady, when everybody gets a spoonful of potatoes and a spoonful of beans and their, chicken or whatever it is form that they've put out on a plate to serve these kids in the school, whatever it may be. That's the only time that equity is actually served. So what we have to do is we have to follow Ayn Rand or Alice O'Connor's thinking there, is that, we're all responsible for our own situations here. We need to work out of these things. And we have to be motivated to just go ahead and do things and get things going and, build. And capitalism is the way. It's what leads and lifts man up. It doesn't tear man down. And we need to work on building things. Now, with that in mind, something really egregious happened on the world stage this last week with the Olympic opening ceremonies. I think we all know what blue balls are, and I think we saw them on full display, and it's disgusting. It was abhorrent. It was an attack against 2 billion Christians across the world. Now, the people that did this do not care. Do not give them the consideration that, they made a mistake. No, this was planned. This was thought through. This was intentional. This is who they are. Believe them. Stop making excuses. It was what it was. We all know it. Don't give these people shelter. What we need to do is stand up. We need to be the ones that say, we have to stop this. We have to. If you don't, the whole concept of Christianity and religion, whatever it may be. I mean, you notice they didn't go after any Muslims. Why? Because they're afraid of them. And they should be, because the Muslims have told you who they are again and again and again. Believe them. Now, Christians have done the same thing. They've showed the world again and again and again who they are. Passive, sit-down type people. We're going to pray on this. Well, when I was taking care of the property in Rome City for all those years and was working all those hours, I was cautioned and taken to task by a number of priests and other good people who would come through and say that I needed to be taking more time in my day to stop and pray. And I said, well, you know what? I appreciate that, but I really don't have the time. So what I do is I just constantly pray throughout the day, and I commit my entire day's work as an act of prayer and commitment, because that's the only time I really do have time to pray, is all throughout the day, and I have to commit my effort as an act of prayer and commitment. Otherwise, things weren't going to get done, because no one was coming to help me. They were all telling me what I had to do in their eyes, but none of them were sitting there lifting a finger or even dropping $1 to try to help me out. Yeah, thanks for nothing, folks. Good intention, but lazy, thoughtless. They just didn't have it in them. They were sissified. They were passive. They were not men. They were not real women. These were people that were thinking that they were entitled to certain things and I should be doing things in a way that met their mind's eye of how things had to get done. And if I had done it their way, nothing would have gotten done. And this is kind of what's happening right now, is people are sitting back and saying, oh, this is terrible, but they're not doing anything. You know, I hear a good spokesman for the Catholic Church standing up saying, oh, this is an abomination, oh, like that. But what are they doing? Nothing. They're just talking about it, but they don't do anything of an action. Now, it's been at least 6 days, maybe more. I've lost count. And you would think that there's a man in charge of the spiritual development of over, well, he helps about 2 billion people around the world right now, and he hasn't said a word. And I'm talking about Francis Bergoglio. Why has Francis not said anything? I mean, if you were a real champion of the church, you'd be standing up right away and say, oh, I don't think so. And here's why. This should be an automatic response. And why on earth is the man sitting on his hands? I'll tell you why. Because I believe quietly he endorses a lot of this. I don't think he's the champion that everyone thinks he is. Who else is concerned about this? Well, Pope Benedict XVI was concerned about this too. And as I told you before, a good friend of mine has gotten a copy of what is purported to be Pope Benedict XVI's last will and testament. And it's mostly testament. And what he goes into in this document that's being reviewed is he talks about a meeting that he had during the transition time between Benedict XVI and then Francis coming in. And Benedict was trying to instill some thoughtful leverage with Francis at the time. And Francis just sat back and scoffed at him and said, the Catholics are sheep. They'll do whatever I tell them to do. And just kind of smirked at Benedict XVI, like, I got this. I know what I'm doing. I'm in charge. You go away. And Benedict XVI wrote that he was so alarmed by this that he thought that he was actually speaking with the devil's advocate at that point, because it was so against what he had brought to the office of being the Pope. And then he was basically shut down by the administration, and it was a soft coup. And so he was just alarmed by it, and he wrote about this, and he felt that God would be able to take things over. Well, God may have been taking things over, and God may still be at work, but right now we need men and women who are designed in the image of God, as God says, you know, I made man in my image, man and woman. Not man and woman and this other transgender, you know, slippery slope type stuff going on. No, he was very, very definite in his design plans. Doesn't. This is how you do it. This is not how you do it. Well, right now, there's a lot of confusion going on right now in some people. In other people, like I've been saying in these podcasts and trying to get people ready for what's about to happen here and is happening, is you have to know who you are. And now that you know who you are, you have to stand up for that. You can't sit down. You can't be passive. You have to speak. You have to say. You have to stop it. You have to stop it. You have to be confident in that. You're on the right side of this. You got to build up. You can't build down. We need to stand up. Men, you got to fight back. Women, you got to be right there with them. Right now, you're the ones that are being attacked the most. And the women are throwing it all away. Everything they worked for has been thrown away and given to a man in a dress. Women are being objectified and put down and in a way that's worse than anything even back in the Elizabethan eras. Even women in the Elizabethan era were pretty happy with their existence because life was hard and men made it easier for them by doing the hard work and taking the labor out of their day and giving them more of the tasks. I'm not saying that tasks aren't hard. Oh my God, I hate doing laundry. I hate doing dishes. I hate doing housekeeping. I hate taking care of my space because it takes away from my other things that I'm doing, and it's just not of high order for me to be prioritizing these things at that level. It's my man brain. But women are different, and that's why men and women work together for a better life for both. Right now, it's troubling. We don't have leadership in the church standing up and doing what they say they're to do. They talk a lot. You have certain people who want to do their podcasts and talk about these things, but they don't do anything. They talk about it, say, oh, that's terrible. That's just terrible. Oh, my gosh, that's just terrible. How many more can they shoot out their butt? Well, let's find out. Right there, there's 2. We got to stand up. It's going to get worse. What you've seen on display was just a call to action by all these progressives around the world, is saying, we're going. Look at what we did. Look at how great we are. Look at what we did. Oh my gosh. That wasn't about Jesus and the Last Supper. Oh no, that was all about Bacchus and all, the Greek gods all getting together. Bullshit. They knew what they were doing. And now they're doing it on levels all over the world. You have crap going on in Brazil, crap going on in Venezuela, crap going on here on this country right now on the not only the political stage, but the attacks. My gosh, we're allowing the attacks, the assaults on our Jewish brothers and sisters right here in this country. What the hell is going on? Why isn't anybody standing up and saying, this cannot stand, this has to stop? There's cries here and there, but where are the people in the streets to shut down Hamas and these other terrorist-type people who all they want to do is tear down and destroy? They haven't done anything to build anything except hate and dysfunctional kids. And that goes into the school system, and that's a whole nother thing. Our Lady says, get your kids out of the public schools. If you're a grandfather, grandmother, do whatever you can. Get those grandkids and babies out of the public schools. Get them into a good learning center, a good homeschool-based system. There's lots of good things you can do online. These things you can tailor to your kids' prurient interests, where their intelligence is taking them, where their interests are. Much better than you can ever get through a public school system. I mean, when you got a public school teacher coming out right now, and I wouldn't put my kids in the hands of anyone under the age of 40 right now, and I'd be questioning about them too, because they've been conditioned a lot with these public school meetings and teacher-type thoughts. And, maybe good intention, but poor execution. It's not taking into anything of any Christian value because they're being successful in driving God out of the equation, the state into the God role. This is all their intention is. Get rid of God. Get these simple thinking people. We have to do it. We're saving them from their thinking about God. This is how they truly believe. And I said before, people will show you who they are. You should believe them. Don't make excuses for them. This era of being nice has to end. You can still offer feather strokes, but not be so nice about it. Offering feather strokes is a disciplined approach. This is a picture of the Angel of America as depicted by Joseph Torellia. And the Angel of America has, in the crown, has the word union. And I'm hoping that this comes off and doesn't get too reflective. But you can also see here in the depiction, the angel is holding, the chaffs of wheat there to represent the body of Christ, but also in the other arm, holding the cross, but also the shield. Why? Why a shield? Because it's a battle. It's a battle, and the weapons right now are ideology and the thinking. In the last several days, I've had a number of inquiries from people asking about the Antichrist, and going back to a previous segment I'd done when I thought, the Antichrist is not going to be actually an individual, but it's an ideology. And having thought about this a little bit more, I'm not so certain that the Antichrist hasn't already been here. We were just too busy in our worldly pursuits to notice it going on, because we were all happy and content, and we were getting things done. But all the while, these things that started in this country back in 1916 with Woodrow Wilson and his administration have taken seed and taken, root. And right now, I think it's with the confluence of media, the technology, and the breakdown of the economy that was man-made. All these things to cause stress in our lives. And then it drives us to the easy solutions. And many times their quote-unquote easy solution or best solution isn't taking God into consideration. It's taking their own feelings into account, which are then sponsored by the state or the government, and saying, this is how you need to feel because this is the right way. This is equity. This is diversity. And that's okay. I like diversity. I mean, I like M&Ms. I like Skittles. They come in all the different colors. That's about as much diversity as I need. The rest of the time, I need capability. I was doing a land clearing project out here the last couple of weeks. And that's one of the reasons I took some time off from the podcasting, because I took a shot to the head here from I got pig whipped by a branch off a tree, and it cut me up pretty bad. But I didn't want to bother people with my bandage and things like this in the wake of Donald Trump's situation. But had a lot of time to think about things, and a lot of people were communicating and concerned why I wasn't saying anything. And that's okay. I mean, I'm just trying to say, you got to stand up. And these guys I had working for me in doing some of this land clearing, things would get tough a little bit, and they'd walk off the job. They were being paid well, better than the average around here, but they just thought it was too much work, and they worked enough hours, they thought, to get what they wanted, and then that was enough. And without consulting me, they just laid down their saws right where they were and walked off the job and saying, pay me. And I said, you'll get paid when everyone else gets paid. Come back in 2 weeks. But this is the mindset that's going on today. People aren't committed to a project. The work that I was asking them above and beyond anything, they just thought that that's enough. I'm out of here. And it was no commitment to themselves. It was definitely no commitment to me. And it was no commitment to the work project. They really didn't care. And there's no concern for quality in a lot of these people right now, because they're not inspired by goodness. We're in a really challenging time, folks. I hate to tell you, but it's just beginning. So we will talk a little bit more about this in the next segment here, but there's a sinister plan to eliminate God from the discussion and to penalize people that do promote God, church-going people. And the way they're going to go about tearing down the church and all churches, not just the Catholic Church. I mean, the Baptists, they're going to come after you. Lutherans, get ready for it. Anyone else in these non-aligned churches, all like that, you guys are going to get hit really hard. You're going to be taxed into oblivion. You won't be able to stand up. You're gone. Get ready for it. They're going to take you out. You're going to be the first ones to have to go underground. You're going to be very Amish very quickly. Nothing wrong with Amish. I got a lot of Amish friends. But your definition of church and community is going to change entirely. You will not have buildings. You will not have the capacity to keep them. They're going to tax you out of existence. The Catholic Church will stand up a little bit longer, but they'll get them too. It's coming. It's happening. The discussions are already in the halls of Congress. I'm sorry to tell you this stuff, but it's going to get really, really bad. So let's stay on that 9-month novena with Cardinal Burke. Try to pray your rosary each day. If you can't pray the rosary, take some time to think about God and our role in helping to protect this union, this country of ours. Let's be ready to fight. I'm not saying get out in the streets and start, hurting people, but stand up. Don't lay down. Don't be passive about this. If you do and you continue to do this, I guarantee you, within 2 to 3 generations, it's all over. Everything's going to be underground, very submissive. You're going to have to apologize for anything they catch you doing. You're going to have to beg for your existence. They're going to take you out. They don't care. We have to stand up and fight because it's the right thing to do. In the meantime, I love you, and I'll be back.